everybody. Welcome back to Valley of the Mist Block of the Month. I'm Adriane Ritter.
And I'm Shelley McNeely.
And we have a guest with us this week, this month, I should say. It's our sister, Christine. She's also a member of the Guild. And we were like, oh, help us think of a new block. And so we begged her to help. And what did you come up with, Chris?
I came up with a spiral. It was no special inspiration. It was just trying to think of something different. I looked at what you guys have done so far, and I thought, let's do something that kind of goes in a round.
Okay. So let's start first. Oh, number one, please go on the website and get the instructions for this block to have as a reference. And at the same time, note in there when it's due, because we're doing this filming a little ahead, and I'm not quite sure of the status of the meetings of when we will be meeting or when this one will be due. So I'm not going to say now. Just look in that newsletter. That'll tell you. Okay.
Okay.
So what do we need, Shelley?
Okay. Our fabrics that we're using this year. Our focus fabric is from In the Beginnings, and it's from the Western Washington Shop Hop from 2018. And then we have a black, a white, and one that coordinates with the focus fabric.
And you only need the focus fabric that we use if you're going to turn them in at the drawing at the Guild. Otherwise, just find something that you like that you can use in every month's block this year to help tie the quilt together. Mm-hmm. So one of the things about this block that some of you aren't going to really like is we can't tell you how much fabric you need of each fabric. And that's because it really depends on what you start with and how wide the pieces are that you add and how much you want to put in it. I used a fair amount of white, so did Shelley, but maybe you like your block to look a little darker or a little brighter with the coordinating fabric. So that all plays into how much fabric you need. But definitely a lot of this stuff was scraps from earlier this year, or actually this is the second block obviously I'm making, so some of these are scraps from the one I made I made this one. Mm-hmm. So definitely look at your scraps. A lot of it's usable, especially, I'll even show you near the end that some of these weird little triangle pieces might be all you need, like down here, that it's smaller than that, but sometimes you just need a tiny little piece. So Shelley, what is it they have to start with?
We need to start with a 5-sided piece. This one here, and this one Adriane has, and it needs to be between 3 and 4.5 inches wide,
minimum. Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to say because it's 5-sided, but yes.
Right. And we told you to do that because Chris actually tried to make one with a smaller scrap piece, and it ended up just having a lot more rounds. Yeah. So and the first pieces kind of looked a little chunky, didn't they? Mm-hmm. They're so small. Yep. So we're saying make it a little bit bigger. Don't make it too big because you do want to have at least 2 full rounds, hopefully 3.
Yeah. Right.
And if you make it much bigger than that, then you wouldn't have that. But we do have a simple way if you don't have a 5-sided piece already to make one. Obviously, Shelley, she took a square and she just cut off a corner. So that's one way.
Well, I cut off sides and I tried to make it so it wasn't too even, especially in the one I'm starting with for today. This one maybe is a little more even, but it's not really even.
Right. And then another way to do it is to take a triangle piece, and this was left over from our January block. And if you just fold it in half, I'm not going to cut them at the same time, but you just want to fold it in half and kind of look at it. You want it, maybe about 2.5 inches roughly. So that means I need to cut off, that size piece right there. So I'm going to open it up, and I'm just going to take a scissors, and I'm going to cut off a piece there, cut off a piece there. Oops, that would be really funny. And there you have a 5-sided piece. So that's what we're going to start with, is something like that. And
The first round, we suggest not having your pieces like maybe more than 1.5 inches wide.
yeah, like look, if you're putting on you have a round like this and you put on a piece, that's almost as big as what you already have. It's hard to see against that navy blue, but that's too wide. So we would suggest you put on something more like this wide, because then it kind of matches the size of.
And then the size can grow as
They
you
grow,
out.
right? Yeah, and as you get bigger, they can go narrow again, but you can start adding like we did, like out here. She's got a wider piece, but in these first few rounds, they're not.
And as you can see, every piece you put on can be a totally different width. It doesn't have to be each round the same width or anything.
Right.
It's whatever size
And
you
the
want.
order that you put them on is completely up to you. Like you can see right here, Shelley. I have to look at it and think as I'm
where I
following it
started?
around.
Yeah.
So she had white against white, and then she actually followed a white with a white. So you can do that. You can because it doesn't look like it's too close together in the way this works. You can have pieces that butt up against each other that are the same color, and it still looks really good. So the nice thing about this, when Chris thought of the block, she realized as she's sewing it that because of the angles that we have on this 5-sided piece, they kind of all angle in the same kind of direction. If you sew these counterclockwise, which is what we're going to do, we're going to ask you to sew them counterclockwise. After you sew on a piece, when you fold it out and go to press it, if you line up this corner, that top corner of that piece, you'll have plenty. You don't have to worry. You don't have to watch how it folds out. You do have to watch at the other end. So make sure your piece hangs over a little bit, and you can test, fold it, and see how it looks. But we're gonna sew on the first round, all the way around.
So my suggestion is to sew it on, press it out away from the center, and then lay it face up, and then you can see which direction would be counterclockwise.
And then you trim that edge, that next edge. So I'm going to press, and then I'm going to trim this side. Now you could trim down here, but Shelley had a good idea. If you leave these hanging, that's not the edge you're going to sew to. So just tidy up the next edge. And
because if you use a long strip, you might want to cut off your strip, but
Just want to use it.
But at least see how it's going, get the hang of it before you confuse yourself that way.
Right.
Okay, so we're gonna sew on the first round, the first 5 pieces, and we'll be back. Okay, so we're back, and we have sewn on our first round. Shelley looks like she did a white in the center and then 3 black around it, and 2 of her coordinating. And I did a white in the center also, just coincidentally. You can start with whatever you want, it doesn't have to be white. Then I put on I started with a black, and then a coordinating, and a black, and a white, and a coordinating. So as you can see, I had a long strip, and it's still hanging there. Everything's going well. The block is gradually getting a little bigger. Shelley, so I mean, it really isn't terribly important that you remember your starting point, but it won't look like a spiral if you don't.
No,
I mean, it'll be correct. So just look at where you started the last one.
Yeah, you can kind of tell, I think.
I trimmed off this one to make it ready because I added this last, trimmed here, and Shelley, she started with a black, so she trimmed there. So what are you going to add next?
I'm thinking about adding a piece of white next to mine.
Okay. And are you going to leave it that width, or is?
Yeah, well, I think so, but
if you open it out and it looks like it's overpowering, you might cut it down.
Right.
Okay, so I think we mentioned in the first part of the video that we want you to not add your focus fabric until the end of the second round, beginning of the third. And that's because, our focus fabric this year, the colors vary a lot along the length of this piece of fabric. Now, I'm probably going to use this piece. I have another scrap piece that I could use, but I'm using this yellow. And if I put this on right now, it'd be like, well, why did she pick yellow? Because there's no yellow there.
Right.
So the earliest I probably can put it is, somewhere along here or here, but I think I'm even going to wait till the next round because this yellow in here comes more in the middle of this strip.
Yeah, I had the same issues in my last one, finding enough in my green to show. So,
right.
Yeah.
So you really want to, so whatever strip you're going to use, make sure that it's got your coordinating fabric in the strip and that it will show up
Right.
when you sew it on. You're not going to cut that part off.
Or it gets sewn inside the seam.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, that's a good point, Charlie. I didn't thought of that. So I probably should sew this blue edge and so that I have more yellow showing.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, so now we just want you to do one more round, and we're going to do one more round and come back because the way this block works, after this, you'll most likely do 2 full rounds. And to be honest, you might do 3 full rounds.
Right.
But after the second round, you can start to see that the block is getting big enough that you might want to pull out your 12.5-inch square up ruler, because that is, I think we forgot to mention that. We forget to mention that all the time. The final block size of these is 12.5 inches.
That's true.
So, so as it gets bigger, you have to check, am I adding fabric where I want to? Is it wide enough one of the directions or not? So, yeah, so we're going to sew on this next round, and then we'll be back. All right, so, excuse me. We have sewn on our 2 rounds.
Right.
We don't have a lot to show here, but I did want to make sure, I'm not sure we covered clearly the trimming. Mm-hmm. So I left all my edges on. So so here I am, I'm coming around, I've just sewn on this was my second, my last piece of the second round. And so to go into the third round, I need to trim here. And this is the same as how you'll do for each of the rounds. So I'm going to take a ruler and I'm going to, and I'm using the angle of the piece that stays. I mean, to be honest, I could change it. I could change it right now and you could do that.
Right.
But just to be frugal with fabric, I'm just going to line it up right there and I'm going to make a trim right here. I mean, if I thought, and Shelley and I did this on our first ones, if I thought this piece that I put on was too big, I mean, you can't do anything if it's too little.
Right.
But if it's too big, you always could trim back. So I could go here and trim, but it's your choice.
Right.
But you just you need to even that up, and that's what the trimming is that you do before the placement of the next piece.
Right.
So my piece has gotten a little bit wide.
Yes.
But Shelley actually found that her last piece of the second round was long enough that she could get the color she wanted from her focus fabric. And so she put that on as her last piece. And we're just going to use Shelley's block right now because mine has these 2 long tails that might get a little distracting. So the thing we want you to do at the end of the second round is just grab your 12.5-inch square up or anything so you can envision the 12.5-inch and lay it over your block and kind of look, where are you?
I center it to make it easier.
So Shelley needs to add roughly, 2.5 inches over here, an inch and a half over there, or something like that. She's got pieces at the top where, when she trims this off, if she had a big triangle, and which is your next piece, Shelley?
Well,
where's your next trim? It's
right here.
Right. So if she probably doesn't, but if she had a big triangle, she could put that there. But most likely she's going to need 2 pieces to fill out this corner.
Right.
But to be honest, the thing that we both found is that you're kind of looking, you're kind of gauging how much I need to put on there. But every piece you add, it changes the center of the block.
That's true.
And just, you're going to, this third round, we want you to have that ruler next to you, iron it on, sew it on, iron out the piece,
Right.
place the ruler over it, and reassess.
Right. You might want to use bigger pieces the further out you go, but it
I mean,
all
and-
depends upon how it's
And
working.
this block of Shelley's is a good example. She put these, she got so far and then she saw, oh, I just need to add some corners or whatever.
Because I was already wide enough one direction.
Right. So this is the round 3. I mean, if you want to just go for it and just put on, you know, fairly normal sized pieces, you know, somewhere between 1.5 and 3 inches wide, you can safely do it. But you could start just checking the width of your block at this point, okay? Because we don't want you to waste too much fabric.
Right.
But on the other hand, if you're making 2 of these, all those leftover pieces, that's what I've used so far to start this next block. So, yeah. All right, so we'll be back. We are going to...
Let's do just the round.
We'll say we're going to do round 3, but to be honest, if you're big enough in one direction, you can skip, if you want to, you can skip an edge.
Yeah, so let's see where we are.
Yeah, so we're going to say we're going to do the third round, but it may not be a complete third round.
Right.
And if you haven't added your focus fabric yet, you need to add it now.
Soon.
Yeah, sometime in this round. And you can, and like we did, Shelley and I, on our first blocks, we both used 2 pieces, but you can use 1 or you can use more, whatever. It's up to you. Okay? All right, we'll be back. All right, we're back. We struggled a little this round.
Yep.
Both of us sewed an edge to the wrong edge. We won't even say how. We won't even go into that. We don't care.
Nope.
We don't need to know the dirt of your quilting. Right.
You know, that's how it goes.
But here we are, end of round 3. We both sewed a complete round 3.
Yes.
Shelley's going to confess that one of her edges was out of order because she thought she didn't need it.
Right. See, because
And
actually, let me explain a little bit there. From here to here was already
Show up with the ruler, Shelley.
It's hard, maybe a little hard to tell.
Well, no,
See?
because you've got a lot of room down here.
I know. See, I'm trying to show that when I was here, before I added it, because I knew I was going to have to add here, I thought, okay, I'll be good. I won't need to add that one.
At the bottom. Oh, that's the one you added, this one.
Yeah, so I thought, but when I got up here, I thought, oh, these pieces are going to be huge. So I decided to go ahead and add it.
So now
these
what
are
it
gonna be
does is
smaller.
that now she only has to add.
Whoops. I have to add at the
you
on
need
these
some-
corners.
you need some here and
Yeah, I'm going to add a piece of black here.
and
hard
actually
to
you
show
could
it,
you could even re-angle that
Yes.
edge just to add a strip if you wanted, or to add a bigger piece, however you want to do it so that it.
But if
fits.
you have plenty, it gives you a lot more options on how you cut it at
so
the
let me
end.
show on my with the ruler. So on mine, I thought I kept getting this weird wide spot and very narrow. It was just ended up being the way my piece was cut, and I think because of how I added pieces. But it actually, I've got enough width right there. I just need to add pieces here and here. But what I may do is add a corner here and 2 pieces here.
Yeah.
Or I can do like Shelley did. But what I don't want to lose my focus fabric.
Yeah.
So
it
kind of depends on how you want the piece to end up, you know. So if I add at the bottom here, say I add another strip down here, then I'm still okay because my yellow would be in. My yellow was kind of in the center, okay, and I have plenty right there, and I could add smaller pieces here. It's kind of, this is what we're saying. This is where you need to play with your ruler, and my advice, I mean, do what you feel best, but my advice would be add to the biggest chunk. Maybe don't try to take out that whole chunk, but add a strip there, and you don't even have to add it. Like if I thought I was going to do this, I wouldn't even have to add it across the whole width. I'm going to because I'm not sure how I'm going to final cut it. But if you know that you just need a triangle somewhere, like here, just add that and then look at it again.
Right.
Okay, so we are going to add our final pieces.
Right.
And when we come back, one of us will have squared up our block, and one of us will show it in the raw form unsquared.
Okay.
And then we'll be done with the block. All right, we'll be back in a minute. We did it. So mine has been the one that was squared up. And actually, if I turn it over, I had it the other way because the corners kind of flopped down, so it didn't look good when I was showing. I was saying to Shelley that mine looks like a bumblebee, so a bee house.
Yep.
But so I'm going to move this out of the way. So mine was squared up. I ended up I added 2 strips here and 2 strips over here, I think. Well, it looks like strips now. They were strips. One was a chunk. One was just a chunk. Okay, so let me get that out of the way. So now Shelley has not squared hers up yet.
Right.
And so you can get an idea. You can see she's just kind of, like we said, she was putting the ruler under it. She was adding pieces. She was going to add another piece of focus fabric, and then didn't because she realized it would just add a tiny bit and you'd have to cut most of it off.
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure I had enough wiggle room to actually use my ruler and give me options.
Okay,
So
show us with the ruler.
I added this on, and this on from the last. So
Okay, that's all you've added, just those 3
Right.
pieces. Okay.
so now I have this. And
So that's your minimum, but you have a lot of choices when
I
you lay it
do.
down, which is harder to show right here.
Yeah, I can twist it a little bit here and there.
But definitely you could go, because she's left some of these. Oh no, that won't work.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
But it will work, and it's just have to see how it best fits and
And like we've said before, when we've done these kind of blocks, the thing before you cut it, I mean, lay it out, put the ruler on there, but watch. Like right here, she can't go there. She's got to get that whole seam in there.
right, and I have to watch.
And to be
all
honest,
that.
if she had moved this piece down a little bit, she might have had a little bit more options
Right.
here. And on mine, I actually had to I unsewed one, moved it a half inch because it didn't give me. I was going to have to cut off more of my focus fabric, and I didn't want to do that. So,
Yep.
that's the block. It's kind of funny. After round 2, I said, Shelley, I have a name for this block. Well, let's call it no commitment. Because, on these ones, when you're trimming, if you aren't liking that edge, you just lop it off.
Yes.
There's no commitment to the actual outer border or
Yes.
the edge of any of these.
Yeah, because if you can make them bigger, if you're not too frugal with your fabric or don't want to necessarily be,
Well, it's funny.
you can make it smaller.
Yeah. And the thing is, what's so nice about this is, I mean, we're only in block 5 of block 12. So you know which fabrics you need to be frugal with. My coordinating fabrics, I bought a fat jelly roll and a layer cake of these Hoffman fabrics that just look wonderful with this. And so I don't have to be that frugal with those.
Right.
And I have a lot of black. I have a lot of white.
Right.
I definitely want to save some for when I, like this, where I finish out the quilt. Yes, it's not finished. It is hanging up there unquilted, but I'll get to it. But so the thing to me I'm being most frugal with, obviously, is my focus fabric.
Yes.
And so if you feel like whatever you feel like you have to be frugal with, do that, but still make the block that you really like.
Right.
And everyone stay healthy and safe, and we will be back in a month.